Good morning and good afternoon, everyone who is joining from different parts of the world. And welcome to today's webinar, Successful Fundraising and Project Pitching. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You're listening using your computer speaker system by default. If you will prefer to join over the phone, just select the telephone in the audio box. As you can see, you have been automatically mute. However, you will have the opportunity to submit questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the question box on the control panel. You might send your questions at any time during the presentations. We will collect this and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. We also want to inform you that this webinar is being recorded and the recording file will be shared with all participants. So on behalf of ICLEI, WRI, C40, and the World Bank, I would like to thank you for joining us today. This is our fourth webinar of the series on sustainable integrated development. The series is part of the Global Platform for Sustainable Cities, GPSC, and is made possible through the generous funding from the Global Environment Facility, GEF. The Global Platform for Sustainable Cities is a collaborative knowledge platform for cities, networks, and institutions to advance the urban sustainability agenda by promoting a common approach to integrated urban planning. The platform brings together participant cities and a wide range of entities working on urban sustainability issues. The GPSC resource team is composed by ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability, the World Resource Institute, and C40 cities, working in partnership with the World Bank to support the Global Platform for Sustainable Cities, and is responsible for promoting knowledge sharing, capacity development among the participant cities through peer-to-peer learning, training academies, access to a range of tools and knowledge products. My name is Laura Noriega, and I'm a junior officer, low carbon cities at ICLEI World Secretariat, and I will be moderating today's sessions in the webinar Successful Fundraisings and Project Pitching. Today will be with us Esther Mogoroshi from ICLEI World Secretariat and Alessandra Perez from Brasilia, who will be joining us as speakers today. In today's webinars on successful fundraising and project pitching, our speakers will help you to understand key institutions of international climate finance, and through the example of Brasilia, that will give you some tips of fundraising and project pitching to overcome these challenges. Before starting with the presentations of our speakers, I would like to introduce you who they are and thank them for being here with us today. So first, I want to introduce you to Esther Mogoroshi, who managed climate finance at the ICLEI's Low Emission Development and Resilience Pathway team. Her focus on unlocking and catalyzing financing flows to local and regional communities. She has experience in managing and leading various sustainability-oriented projects at different nations and international organizations, providing assistance and analytic support to matters related to climate change finance. Esther has a background in economics and business administration. On the other hand, we have the pleasure to have Alessandra Perez, who is the Deputy Secretary for Strategic Issues for the Federal District Environment Secretariat of Brasilia. She has over 18 years of experience in development and management of integrated development projects and programs in Latin America and Africa. She leads operations with the government's multilateral and bilateral development banks, international organizations, and with the private sector. She is responsible to support the strategic environment management for the federal district to foster partnerships and institutional arrangements, and development, fundraising, implementation, and management of strategic public projects. So thank you very much, Alexandra and Esther, for being here today with us. So now we'd like to give the floor to Esther, who will be helping us to set the scene in the climate finance space. Esther, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura, for the introduction. And I also would like to welcome all our participants in today's webinar. Laura already introduced me, and also a bit the topic I would like to talk about. I will not take too much from your time because I really find it crucial that you hear the experience from Brasilia, from Alessandra, and that we also have sufficient time for the question and answers. Still, I found it important that I set the scene a bit, and we also talk about a bit the global challenges, why is it such an important topic, and also to give you a really quick overview on the climate finance architecture. The first slide, please. So talking about the global framework, I think I'm not saying anything new here when I say that there are three main topics, initiatives, agreements influencing our work, your work. One is the Kyoto Protocol, which entered in force in 2005 and was the most prominent early step towards a low carbon economy. Then the Paris Agreement in 2015, which aims to strengthen the global response to the threat of the climate change by keeping a global temperature rise this century well below the 2 degrees Celsius. And then also, of course, the Sustainable Development Goals, the so-called SDGs, which are a collection of 17 global goals set by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015. So this is the 2030 agenda, in other words. Then what does this mean for us? What these global initiatives mean to us also in numbers and tasks? They are at the same time challenges and opportunities, because if we want to reach these global goals by 2030, then a $93 trillion will be needed for investment in low carbon infrastructure across the world. On the other hand, you can also look at it as an opportunity, because tackling climate change could unlock a $23 trillion investment opportunity only in emerging markets. The next slide, please. So where are we now with reaching these goals? Because we have this historic moment that we have one agenda and we have to now undertake this ambitious global climate effort. So, but still, despite this favorable environment, what we see is that there is a serious gap between how much money is and could be invested, and also how much money is making it to the local projects. So taking the number from the CCFLA, the Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance, according to CCFLA's calculation, there is an annual investment gap which is between 2.5 and 4 trillion US dollar. And there is also another interesting number I wanted to share with you, which comes from the Institute for Environment and Development, saying that out of the 17.4 billion US dollar total investments in climate finance, only 1.5 billion US dollar was approved for local climate change projects between 2003 and 2016, which is an extremely low number. So we can clearly see from these numbers that there is an urgent need to mobilize public and private resources. So these are the numbers I wanted to share with you. And here, as I promised, a really quick overview from from where those sources of funding could come at an international level. So international financial sources, you can group just as national financial sources. They can be public sources or private sources. Actually, private sources are really huge out there. Somehow it's just, as experience showed, they are very difficult to reach for public sector actors. So as you see on this picture, the funding can come from public and private sources, and within those we can distinguish international, national, and subnational level. At the international level, public finance flows through development banks, the UN mechanism, the EU funds, and other multi and bilateral channels. And just a few words on each before giving the word to Alessandra. So I believe these slides will be shared with you later. So then you can have a proper look also at this table, what you see here, where I tried to collect the most important multilateral development banks. Multilateral development banks can be categorized many ways, and The two biggest groups are the main and the sub-regional multilateral development banks. And the major differences between the purpose, the geographical coverage, and the membership. And then there are also other international financial institutions with a very similar mandate, but don't fall under the above described categories. Regarding the UNFCCC climate funds, which is the other big group, the UNFCCC, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, established a financial mechanism to provide funds to developing country parties in implementing the convention. So the operation of the financial mechanism is entrusted to the Global Environment Facility, the GEF, and the Green Climate Fund, the GCF, as operating entities. And then, as you can see, in addition, parties have established also 4 special funds, which is the Special Climate Change Fund, the Least Developed Countries Fund. These are both managed by the GEF and the GCF, and also the Adaptation Fund. So the multilateral climate funds use mainly grants and concessional loans. And these funds are not or very rarely accessible directly for local and regional governments. And my last slide is on the EU funds, which is, as you also know, a very, very complex system in the European Union. So I really encourage you to visit this website, which I find amazing. I'm not sure how much I can promote here, but I think it was really a very nice work collecting all European funding opportunities. This matrix, this interactive tool was developed by the Covenant of Mayors. And here, when you click on each of these opportunities, you get a much detailed description. I would stop here my presentation and would like to give the floor now to Alessandra, who can give you an insight through the experience of Brasilia, how Brasilia managed to access some of these funds I just mentioned in my presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. And thank you, Esther. Thank you, Laura. And I want also to thank you for the audience that we have today. I'm going to start explaining our experience. We are the capital of Brazil, Brasilia. And we are also a city and also a state, because we are also the federal district. So we have this structure of being a municipality and also being a state. So I think it's really important when we are looking for fundraising to understand our situation, our reality, and also to plan. Because it's for the ones who can give us money, it's important for them to understand if we know where we want to go. So I think that the most important tool that we have here in Brasilia is our strategic plan 2019-2060. And we have this plan based on 8 main axes, and all of them connected with SDGs. As Esther told us in her presentation, those are the 17 SDGs, and our strategic plan with all the 8 main axes, they are connected with the SDGs. So I'm going to focus on the environment and climate change axis. And here we have also our strategic plan link if somebody wants to take a look to better understand. It's in Portuguese, but you can try to translate on Google some parts. We are planning to translate to English as soon as possible. So our main goals on the environment and climate change is to consolidate the clean energy matrix as the basis of the future for the federal district, be a national reference in water management, be a reference in conservation and environmental quality, be a reference in environmental licensing efficiency. This is something that is from Brazil. We have this some countries, they don't have this tool of environmental licensing. Only to explain a little about this is one it's a way of financing some environmental projects when infrastructure or any kind of entrepreneur is planning to do some industry or to build a new road or to build a new building, and any kind of infrastructure or investment. We have this law in Brazil that that we have to this investment has to have a permission in accordance with our environment and the environment impact. So depending on the environment impact, has a fee that must be paid by the entrepreneur, and this fee has to be deposit or contracted depending on the way of the law says, and it's by state. Each state has its own law about licensing, and we can use the money only in protected areas. So, for example, we had the dry port here in Federal District that we are finishing the construction, and it was near to a national park. So all the money that they pay as a fee for the licensing, for the environmental licensing, we had to use in this park, in this national park that was near to the dry port. So not all countries. Some countries has this tool, but not all. So that's why I'm explaining, because we use this money a lot. Okay, here in Brazil, and also here in Brasilia. And another goal is to ensure sustainable sanitation. Well, so another tool that we have here, it's really important. It's our project City Nova that we have from GPSC. This project is allows us to make some pilots, and these pilots that we are doing is helping us to fundraise money to increase the impact of these pilots. So I'm going to show you what we are doing with this project City Nova GPSC in Brasilia, and how we are using this to fundraise more money for what we are doing, so we can increase and have more catch up and have more impact on the actions of the City Nova project. So the main objective of City Nova project is to develop and encourage innovative technological solutions and integrated urban planning, helping the public administration to promote sustainable cities and aimed at society's integration into and access the participation in monitoring the public management. So we have some targets here to avoid emission, and also here the funding that we have specifically in Brasilia, it's $6.5 million, and we have as counterpart from our federal district government $63 million, and the period is 2019 to 2022. So we have this integrated action planning and also the investment in infrastructure coming together. So we build the planning as building knowledge, studies, and tools, and also to have the pilots projects in Recife and Brasilia, because this project is not only in Brasilia, it's also in Recife, with innovative solutions and technologies that make an impact and scale up. And all this planning and also the investment in infrastructure, we are taking all this information to the platform of Sustainable Cities Knowledge Platform, and also the Sustainable Cities Innovation Observatory. So these two tools, they are already public, and you can find all the informations in the web. So here in Brasilia, this is one of our main action of the GEF project. So we have the development of the Environment Information System, SISDIA. The most important thing of this system that we are developing is to put together all the information that we have on the environment in a structured way, so we can so people can access, not only the government, not only the private sector, but also the citizens can access all this information. With this system, we want to better control our territory. We want to better control our all our water, all our resources. It's a really huge system, and we want this to be like an example for the entire country and also abroad, if it's possible. Another important action of this project of GEF here in Brasilia is the climate governance. So we have studies to identify the impact of climate change. We already have our inventory that we made in 2012. So now we are going to update this inventory. We are already doing this, and we are also implementing the Climate Change Forum and a scientific panel, and also our adaptation and mitigation plan. So as I said in the beginning, it's really important to know where we are going, to have all the studies that we need as a background to plan where we are going, because the ones who can borrow us money, they want to know that they feel like it's more safe to them to give us the money, to borrow us the money, if we know where we are going. So we have a mainstreaming action that is social engagement, also with women empowerment on the project. So all our actions, we are involving, we have this as a goal to have the social engagement with us. So we are involving all NGOs, we are involving communities, and all kind of ways of social engagement that we can find in the actions that we are promoting. This is another really important action. This is one of the actions that we could fundraise $41 million on the results of this action. So now we of course we don't have the result yet because the project started this year, but only the idea and all the studies that involved and all the planning that we have on this action was enough for us to fundraise $41 million to recover springs in all basins of the federal district. So you see, it's not only having the results in hand, but when you have the studies, when you have the plan, and you have a solid project that you can go to the multilateral banks, bilateral banks, and private sector funds and show, even without results, we can fundraise money. So we have already fundraised for this, as an example, $41 million with the Plata Fund. Here in GEF project, we are restoring 80 hectares of in spring areas. This is really important for us. So this is another basin that we have, and we are going to apply, and this is an action that is really important. that is it's a delivery that we are going to give to the federal district, is the application of the Water Basin Sustainability Index. If you see our strategic plan for 2019 to 2060, in the main goals, you're going to see that all these actions that we are doing, all these deliverables that we are going to deliver in the GEF6 project, they are connected. Why I'm saying this is to reinforce the importance of planning, of knowing where you want to go. This is an innovation that we are doing in this project. We are doing mechanized agroforest systems in river basins. We bought some implements. This machine is one of them. We bought 3 machines to implement mechanized agroforestry systems in 40 hectares at Jeff's project, is one of our deliverables also. And we discovered we are already implementing. We have some results on this action. We discovered that these machines they can help the producers on doing what he used to do before 20 times less than he's doing without the machines. So things that he used to do in 2 weeks, he's gonna do now in 2 days. So we also are testing these machines, and one of them we discovered that is too heavy for women. So the industry already changed the machine so it can be appropriated, used by the women also. So it's really innovative and really important for us to be together with the industry, and doing this project is as an example. And also we are going to reproduce this project in the CAFE. We have also part of the money that we fundraise at Fomplata and also at CAFE. I'm going to show you that later. And we are going to use this in more areas to recover, and to also in other and bigger producers. And we want to optimize the production here in Brasilia. Here is one of the saddest things we have here in Brasilia. We have the largest dump in South America, and it's not like this now. Is the picture here? We can see the picture, but it's not like this now. It's covered by grass, but it's 60 meters mountain of trash covered by grass. So in this project, we are doing some studies, contamination diagnosis on the soil, on the surface, on the groundwater, so we can understand what we have to do to mitigate this problem, and also to recover this area. So we intend that these studies are going to be the tools for the private sector, and maybe for a partnership with public and private sector to recover this area. And in these studies, we are all going to give to the society, and give to the private sector the some tests on the recovery tools that we are going to test to help the private sector understanding, and also I think it's to understand and to test the viability and of recovering this area. We really need the private sector to help us on that. So these studies, it's really important for us. Here you can see the image of the dump, And you can see on the right side that we have this, this green part. This green part is a national park here in Brasilia. It's a really important national park, and you can see that it's pretty near. And this is one of the most important things that we have on the studies, is to try the phytoremediation on the border of the national park, because it's the only way that we can recover this area is with phytoremediation. We also have people living around, so we really have to be careful with the soil contamination. We also have to be careful with the groundwater contamination. So these studies are really important, and we are really anxious with the results of these studies. We have already contracted. We think that in 4 months we are going to have the results of the studies to share with the society. This is another important action of the project. We are gonna build. This is an example of what we are going to do. This is the image of one plant of photovoltaic plant that we already have here in Brasilia. The name is Origin, and it's on the program Brasilia Solar. That is a program that we want to optimize the photovoltaic energy here in Brasilia. And this is an example. It's not our project, but it's an example of a picture of what we are going to do. So we are going to create this plant of photovoltaic energy, and all the energy that we are going to generate, we are going to use on 5 public buildings. We want to do these 5 public buildings 100% free of other kind of energies, only using the photovoltaic energy. We are looking for one school, one hospital, and other free models that we don't know yet, but we are studying. And this plant that we are gonna build is gonna have the capacity to fill the necessity of 100% of these buildings, public buildings. And we already fundraised money to better catch up of this initiative, not only for public buildings, but also for private buildings. We have, and also for transportation too, and also for public illumination. So I think that this is a really, really important action, a really, really important deliverable, because only with the idea of this, we already fundraised $300 million with the New Development Bank. So these are another example of what we can do, how we can use the plants. If we are gonna use the plant, we're gonna build the plant above buildings, or if we are gonna build the plants in a land. So those are only more images of what can be done. So the project, the City Nova project that I just show you in details, it's executing by the Ministry of Science and Technology, the GEF, that is our financial institution, implementing by the United Nations Environment, and co-executing by us as the beneficiary of the project, and also from the city of Recife, the CGEE, and also to the program Cities, Sustainable Cities. Why I'm showing this is for you to know a little about when you are looking for non-refundable money. It's important to understand where the money is in your country. For example, here in Brazil, the GEF cannot give money directly to my state or to my city. I can go through two ministries here in Brazil to find where the Jeff's money is. So we are connected with the Science and Technology Ministry, but the Jeff also has money at the Ministry of Environment. So we have to present our project to this ministry, and the ministry choose the project that they are going to present to Jeff for approval. So so it's important to understand the structure of your country, of your state, to take this money, how the laws are organized, how you can reach this money, and all the rules of reaching this money. Because I think that most of the countries are like this, that Jeffs put the money in a federal institution, and this federal institution take care of the money for the rest of the subnationals. But I'm not sure if this happens in all countries. That's why I want to explain a little about this. That is important for us as subnationals to better understand the rules and where the money is in our country. So our fundraising results, where we have this, we fundraised 150 K dollars on non-refundable with the Development Bank of Latin America, CAFI. It's connected, this non-refundable financing is connected with the financing of $150 million, because we are going to use this non-refundable money to prepare and to do some studies to better understand, and also to prepare our project to uh, our project proposal to CAFI. So we are for the non-refundable, we are going to do studies on the protected areas and environmental compensation assessment, because environmental compensation is the money that we receive from the environmental licensing that I told you before. So we want to better understand how we are using this money, because it's a huge money that we receive from the private sector and also from the public sector too. When I say we receive, is the environment of federal district, and also for all subnationals here in Brazil. So we want to better understand how we are using this money, and to plan a better use of this money, as we can only use this money in protected areas. So as we have this plan of being a reference in licensing, we also fundraise this money to implement this project on biodiversity preservation, protected areas infrastructure, implementing and management, and basin recovery of Maranhão River, Preto River, and Descoberto River. Also using the agroforestry, the mechanized agroforestry system that I showed you before, and also using the methodology that we are using to recover the 80 hectares that I showed you before. And here at Fomplata, we have this also another fundraise that another financing that we have on $41 million, and this is already approved. The project is already ready, and we intend to sign until May next year. We are doing some negotiations, and it's to implement sustainable agriculture and to recover the degraded areas from Paranoá Lake. Here in Brasilia, we have this artificial lake. It's a really big lake, and it's a water manantial that we have here. And we have as a protected area, the surrounding of this lake and we have to recover this area. So this money, so you can see that the money of CAFI and also the money from Plata, they are connected. The basin recover at CAFI, we are going to use to recover all the basins around the Brasilia inside the federal district. At Plata, we are going to use the same technologies that we are also using at Jeff's project, but to recover the region around the Paranoá Lake. So you see the water, how important for us is the water here in our region. Here is another important action, important financing result that we had. We fundraised $300 million refundable with New Development Bank in a partnership between our secretariat and the Brasilia Regional Bank. That is a bank that we have here. To provide low-cost financing for public companies and private sector on climate adaptation. So we are looking for these 4 main areas: public transport, bus fleet replacement with low emission buses and other ways of mobility, photovoltaic plants to energy generation. So see here, you also, Brasilia, we are talking about Brasilia Solar again, the same that we showed at Jeff project. So everything is connected. Our planning is connected. Our experience as a pilot, small experience at Jeff, and the fundraising and the action that we want to increase and to have more catch up. The water reuse system for house and private buildings and sustainable infrastructure. What is important here when we are talking about refundable money is to understand that the countries, all countries, they have some specific laws on external operations, credit operations. So here in Brazil, for example, we have for us to have the sovereign guarantee, to have a refundable financing, we have some criteria and rules that we have to follow. And it's really important in each country to understand the laws and the rules to access the external credit operations. To how the country gives the sovereign guarantees, because these multilaterals and bilaterals, they don't give money without sovereign guarantee. So it's important to start to research on these rules, on these procedures. It's not that it's impossible. We have to follow the rules, but it's not impossible. And for us here, we can find a lot of help on the federal government, helping us on helping us on designing a good proposal, helping us on going through all the procedures. So I think that all countries, they have all the system, and you can count on it. Research, understand, and count on this. I think that there are some countries that the subnationals can take money directly without going through the federal government. In the case of the non-refundable, it's easier, but you also have some rules to follow. You don't have the sovereign guarantee because the money is non-refundable, but you have to understand where the money is, how to reach this money, how to present a proposal, and also for private funds too. You have to understand where the money is. I was thinking while I was in Bonn this year, I was thinking of, and I have been discussing with the World Bank and Jeff about this, because it's important for us to have a platform and understand where the money is not only the money from multilaterals that are easier to understand, but the money from private sector, private funds, it's important for us to have this information. I know that we have some really huge companies like IKEA Foundation that has a huge money for environment. You have Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that they have money for environment. So, and a lot of others, big companies that they have their foundations to fundraise money for environment and climate change. But it's important for us to have this information easier, right? So we have here the a GEF preparation. I'm not going to go through each step, but you can see that we have steps to go through to fundraise the money. And the most important thing is to understand the rules and also to understand how to present a project and how this project can be approved. So here I put all the approval cycle and also the implementation and monitoring cycle of Jeff's full-sized project cycle for us to understand that we have procedures and we have forms and we have documents that are specific documents for each fund. So Jeff, they have their own specific documents that we have to fill, that we have to discuss with them, that we have to go for approval, not only with our country, but also with Jeff. Next, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, we still need 1 second to fix this problem, but you received one question, so I can also read that question if you meanwhile would like to answer that. The question was, for pitching a project to a potential funder or multilateral bank, what documents should we share?
The most important is to know the bank or the funder that you are going through, because each one of them, they have their specific documents that they want you to fill. So the next slide, I'm gonna show the IDB approval cycle. So they have some documents that Jeff doesn't have, and also Jeff has some documents that the IDB doesn't have. We can see here an example of IDB to approve an operation internally. So first we do this project profile, and this project profile, it's also a form that they give us, a template that they give us to do. And we prepare this. This goes to a review, and then this goes to approval. Where is this approval? Inside the bank. But before we present to the bank this project profile, we have to understand what we have to do internally in our country, internally to have the sovereign guarantee. In the slide before, I was showing Jeff, and in that case, you don't really need the sovereign, you don't need sovereign guarantee, but you also need your country, the federal government approval. But it's not the same as this one, because it's a shorter approval. So it's really important to understand that we have all these procedures, and look, we go through the project profile publication, then proposal operation, draft loan proposal, and then we go again to the government as the DLP package submission. So it's like you start in your government, you go to the bank, and you prepare everything with the bank, and then you go back to the government. For what? To approval on here in Brazil, we have to approval on the Senate, we have to approve on the economy ministry, we have to approve on the treasury secretariat that is going to give us the sovereign guarantee. After all this approval, that we start the negotiation process with the bank. So it's really connected, and we need to count on them, count on the bank, count on the government to help us building all this structure. And here it seems like a little bit difficult, but what I want to tell you is that we don't have to be fear, because now we are filling one of our projects, and took for us like 3 months of preparing. So it's not so much, because it's a huge money. So if you see, oh, I had to work 3 months on preparing something to have $150 million. So I'm not telling about approval, I'm telling about preparation. So 3 months of preparation, of meetings, of work group, of discussing with governments, discussing with the bank, missions, to have $150 million. I think it's fine. So I want to encourage you to not having a fear of all the procedures, all the documents that you have to prepare, but go through it, because every step that you do ahead, you can see a different scenery. So I want to encourage, because sometimes I have been working with fundraising for projects, for sustainable projects, for a long time, and sometimes on private sector, it's so insecure, and it's so difficult also to prepare everything, to present, to approve, and also sometimes they approve your project, but they don't sign with you. So you have all the steps, you do everything, but at the time of the signing, they change their policies, they change something. So to fundraise money is not an easy task, but I want to encourage you to do step by step, so you can get where you want to get, that is to fundraise money for your project, and to implement your project with quality, and to have like great deliverables for your state, for your country, from your city. Thank you so much. I'm Alessandra, and my email if you need something. Thank you for sharing this morning, this afternoon with me, and I hope my words and my experience was helpful.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. We will have some questions, and I will proceed then to read some of them, because I'm aware about the time. So first of all, I have a question that it says, I would like to pile on the question and ask how they recycle projects or project ideas.
Well, we don't like really have this experience of recycling project and project ideas. What I showed you here in my presentation is that we have this planning of Brasilia 2019-2060, and with this plan we have our main goals, and with these main goals we started this project with Jeff on connected with these goals, and with the ideas and the pilots that we made on Jeff, that we are doing on Jeff, we could fundraise more money to increase these goals. That's so it's like a really structured line. So we are not facing like any kind of recycling or any kind of going back and further for ideas on project. To see, it's like the same line since the beginning and now what we are like doing, and we still have 3 years ahead on signing all this fundraised money, and also to implement it all this and finish implementing of Jeff. So we have like this.
Thank you, Alessandra.
Okay.
I have another question. For the projects where the funding is refundable, how are you planning to generate the money to pay, and what interest rates are you paying at?
Okay, so you could see that the project that we have fundraised, we are going through a lot of agriculture, a lot of water, a lot of solar production, solar energy production, And so all these resources and all these actions, we are capable of generate money from the state for the federal district. We don't have this information yet. A lot of people ask me that. This is a really good question, and we are starting a terms of reference to contract a study to better understand this. But we are really positive on affirm that we are really gonna get this money back. We have 25 years for pay this money, and the rate is around 3% per year, around 3% per year. So it's not like a huge fee, and we have 25 years to pay. So, and in these 25 years, we are really positive on having this investment back, so we can pay that, so that this investment can be payable. But we don't have these studies yet, the results of these studies yet.
Okay, thank you. Do non-government organizations have to be pre-approved as suitable prior to starting the application process?
I don't know if I understand the question. It's not a public institution. It's a non-governmental institution that wants to fundraise money. Is that right?
Right, and they want to know if they have to be pre-approved to be suitable for applying for the process.
No, as far as I know, because I don't have like much experience on NGOs fundraising, but as far as I know, for the one from IUCN that I have a better relation, closer relation, and also WWF here in Brazil, they can fundraise by themselves with, mostly that I can see is with private sector. So IKEA Foundation, for example, they have a really huge project here in Amazon through the NGO called Forest Trend, and it's a negotiation between them. They don't have to have any kind of accreditation or nothing like that to fundraise. They have to prepare a good project. They have to understand what they are doing, and where they want to go, and to sell their project for the ones who wants to fundraise. These banks that we are talking about, multilaterals, they don't usually give money to NGOs, usually.
Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions from the audience in our box, but maybe Esther, do you have any question for Alessandra?
Yes, thank you. I do have many questions, but also considering the time, there's one question I really would like to ask, that what we also see from the WorldSec working with local and regional governments around the globe is that this planning phase seems to be a really difficult phase. So just you also mentioned, Alessandra, how important it is, the proper data collection, that you have really good studies that can support your project idea, and these are really necessary also for the project pitching and for the fundraising. But what we see that even to prepare those studies and to collect those data, most of the local governments already struggle with capacity and with funds. So if you have any suggestions how to support that part of the project preparation.
Okay, so most of these multilaterals and bilaterals, as I showed at CAFE in our experience, they have this non-refundable money connected with the refundable money that they are supposed to give, supposed to finance. So, and this money comes before and helps on preparation, on planning, so it's really common of having this money from non-refundable from the bank that are going to borrow you money. And I think it's a really important source to plan and to contract consulting, so you can have the support on planning and preparing your project. And I think that also, Jeff, they have a support that they can have to give in advance. I'm not like pretty sure, but I think that they give an advance money. Here in Brasilia, we had this, but it was a really hard negotiation. But we got a money in advance to prepare everything and helped us on all this to structure all those actions and planning. So and then when we started the project, we had to pay back to refund the money that they give in advance. And in the other hand, from the multilaterals, this non-refundable money they give us, we don't have to pay back on the preparation. So at CAFE, for example, we had this 150K dollars to help us on the preparation and consulting. So that's a resource that we can count on that.
Thank you. Okay, we have only 2 minutes left, so I have one last question. I know we have received a couple of more questions. I will appreciate if you can maybe send it to us via email or directly to Alessandra. So the last question, Alessandra, can you seek the funds aiming just for project preparation?
Can you repeat, please?
Can you seek for funds aiming just for project preparation?
Yes, that's what I just said. These multilaterals that can finance for us, they saw us as a client. So we are a client, right? They depend on their clients. So World Bank, all the countries that are members of the World Bank are their clients. As the client, when they are like negotiating a refundable credit operation, they give this non-refundable money to help on this preparation. So it's important when you are negotiation for a credit operation, it's important to put that on the table and ask for that money, because they're not going to offer, but you have to ask for. But to fundraise money specifically only to prepare project without connection with any financial institution that is going to finance, I really don't know.
Thank you very much. So thank you once again, Alessandra, for being here today with us and being our speaker. Esther, thank you very much also for your presentation. And thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, Successful Fundraising and Project Pitching. Once you have left today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentations, and we will appreciate if you will complete it and provide us your feedback. The recording of today's webinar will be available at the GPSC website, www.thegpsc.org. Finally, on behalf of the GPSC resource team, I thank you all for your attendance once again, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. So I think this is all for today. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Goodbye.